The date is April 7th, and it's a Tuesday afternoon here in Gokulam, Mysore, India. I'm here up on my rooftop once again, gazing out over the treetops at Chamundi Hill, the embodiment of Sri Chamundi, otherwise known as the Goddess Mother, Durga. And the last few days have been particularly hot, but still, as is usual with Mysore, there's a nice cool breeze which tenderizes the searing heat. So today I've been reading from a book entitled Sri Ramakrishna, Prophet for the New Age. And Ramakrishna is considered to be one of the greatest of the saints of the last millennia here in India. And this is a biography of his life. He died at a fairly young age in 1886. And it's wonderful to have these books, these biographies, these stories about these very, very high realized beings, to reflect on their lives, how they lived, how they saw the world. Ramakrishna was considered to be what is known as a bhakti, the devotional path of yoga, one who surrenders himself completely through worship of God, and in his particular case is primarily through the worship of Kali, the goddess, the feminine expression of God. And he was known as God intoxicated, which means he was so focused on and so immersed in the worship of the deity, the goddess, on a moment-to-moment, day-by-day basis, that it almost appeared as if he was in a state of inebriation and intoxication. For me, what's so refreshing is that here's a man who lived way beyond concepts and ideas, and lived in the reality of spiritual life, the reality of spiritual realization. For him, it was not something you talked about, it is something that you lived and acted from. It's something that was an expression of the core of your being. And you know, it's really something that all of us should aspire to, that our spiritual life is not something that we apply just to our behavior, it's not something that we just talk about, but something that we live deeply from the very bottom, the very essence of our hearts and souls. It's inspiring to read how he, you know, in the truest spiritual vision, the illusion of diversity, the illusion of separateness completely dissolves, and you experience reality, the essence of reality as it truly is, which is as one reality, where nothing is really separated from anything else. To see everything, everyone, as simply an expression, an extension of your own self. And in that expression, you experience the most profound kind of love and the most profound kind of peace and unity and joy. And you know, it's only in our minds when we see division, when we see and experience ourselves as separate, do we begin to fall into the typical forms of suffering, such as anxiety and fear and hatred and jealousy and all these kinds of things. But when you begin to realize fully the essence of reality, which is that one unity, then indeed in fact the entire fabric of reality begins to not only appear differently, but is different to you. You experience that wholeness, that oneness, that power of unity and healing, that miraculous coming together of everything all at once, of being connected. And again, not just intellectually, but really in the deepest part of your being, and the deepest part of your soul. So, in reading this biography, which is really beautifully written, I highly recommend it to anybody. The author's name is Richard Schiffman. Not somebody who personally knew Ramakrishna. It was written quite recently, but somebody who had obviously a very, very deep and profound understanding of Ramakrishna and his life. And it's very, very beautifully written. And like I said, just reading the stories of him, his relationship to his devotees, to people who came into his life, you really begin to get at least a small sense of what it means to really live a spiritual life deeply and profoundly. What the reality of realization means. Again, it's not just some idle concept or theory or something that you just banter about in conversation, but actually it's just like vibrates in the very essence, the very cells of your body and soul, and has tremendous power in that way. It can touch people very deeply. It has a very transformative effect. I mean, everybody who came into his presence was deeply touched, deeply changed by his life. And it was amazing too to see that all his devotees really became lions of men, spiritual giants themselves, and wandered out into the world, went to Europe, into America, and changed multitudes of people's lives. Such is the possibility of true spiritual power.